Hello everyone and welcome today to this webinar from Hosting Controller titled Offering Hosted Exchange, What It Takes. In the next 30 to 40 minutes we will go through the overall broad view of what Microsoft Exchange is and what are the market situation on offering it as a hosted service and what are different caveats and problems that people expect to face when they try and offer this as a hosted service. So we will begin our presentation now, and we will quickly get an overview of how we have reached where we have reached in terms of enterprise communications. So enterprise communications have seen an evolution from different ways of communicating to a fully unified way of communications. And as you can see that previously there used to be telephone, fax, mobile, email, and everything is now converging into a single unified whole where people are communicating in more unified ways than ever before. So we can quickly segregate this into three separate steps. The first is unified messaging. The key concept behind unified messaging is that the information goes through a store and forward mechanism. One person stores it to another place, and then another person pulls that information at some later time at its convenience. Whenever we have any such situation, we will call it as a unified messaging solution. Example would be email, calendar, tasks, schedules, and other forms of text-based messages that you exchange. So after unified messaging going through the evolution phase, we see next came the unified collaboration. And unified collaboration as against unified messaging was near real-time exchange when people were actually actively collaborating in a near real-time way. So different forms of document management, content management, and workflows, office automation workflows, all come within the domain of unified collaboration, where different people act in a near real-time way. A step is done by one person, and then as dictated by the workflow or as they will, another person does some other thing, and everyone is kept updated on the flow of information between these people. So this was the next step of evolution from unified messaging going towards unified collaboration, and very recently we have seen it going to fully real-time exchange, and that's what we call unified communications. So unified communication means an exchange of information between multiple users in pure real-time. So you can expect that different forms of telephony, internet telephony, voice over IP, presence, video, IM, audio conferencing, video conferencing, and all other exchange of information which is pure real-time between multiple parties is what falls within the domain of unified communications. So we can divide it into four steps. One was independent ways of communicating, then we had unified messaging, then unified collaboration, and then unified communication. So this was a quick evolution of where we are today in terms of enterprise communication software. So once we have all these ways of communication, enterprises are now asking that all of their back-end applications, their CRM applications, their back-office application need to be integrated with these new ways of communication. So we can see that enterprise applications which were previously only offering maybe a browser-based interface or some other interface are now required to heavily interact with these unified communication mechanisms, and they need to have tightly integrated interfaces that will allow people to exchange messages, collaborate easily within themselves, and engage other people in real-time communication right on the fly from within the GUIs or other menus provided to them. That's one part of the story that changes in the way people interact. Microsoft offers a broad range of enterprise solutions which are by far one of the most popular enterprise suite of products in the tier 2 and small to medium or even to large enterprise market. There were some solutions by SAP, by IBM that have historically taken this place. But first of all, in terms of functionality, they didn't come close. And second, in terms of the scale, they were only good enough for tier 1 big enterprises, and the SMB market was pretty vacant. And as in other places, Microsoft has done a good job in taking a big market share of the SMB market in terms of offering enterprise servers which tightly work together and integrate with each other very well. So Microsoft came up with Microsoft Exchange. That was like 10 years ago. When unified messaging was about to start, Microsoft has gone through its own evolution, and today they have a Microsoft Exchange 2010, which is a pretty good unified messaging platform that broadly provides the unified messaging in a good way. Then they have SharePoint that we can call, as per our definition of near real-time collaboration. It is doing a good job of providing unified collaboration. You can define your own workflows. You can allow people to co-author documents at one time and do other near real-time communications. Then Microsoft came up with Office Communication Server. They renamed it to Link, and that broadly delivers unified communications. It has interfaces for telephony, for voice over IP, for audio conferencing, video conferencing, telepresence, messaging, and other stuff. So Microsoft has come up with an integrated suite of products which is delivering very well onto this market segment. The other thing which is happening while this unified communication thing is going are the interfaces are changing very rapidly. The workforce has gone increasingly mobile, and it's demanding that all the interfaces and all the information should be available to them wherever they are, whenever they want, however they want, whatever they want to do with it, and whoever wants to pull that right on the street or in open air or in their homes or in their workplaces, wherever they are, they want all this information on their fingertips. And you want to use the same devices to communicate, to collaborate, to exchange, and do other stuff. And the list of devices is increasing quickly. So this has changed the whole paradigm of where and how these enterprise applications need to be hosted or served. The on-premises model is breaking down because the premises isn't really available, and it requires a fundamental change in the way enterprise software is hosted. So what's the most natural place to push all this enterprise software? It's in the cloud. It's a no-brainer. That cloud, since it's visible to everyone from everywhere, so there's a huge traction and there's a huge demand for people to move all these legacy systems from their on-premises locations somewhere onto the cloud, and that is opening up a huge market, as we will see in coming slides on how the market for hosted applications is unfolding. As you can see in a very latest study, we are seeing that almost 25% of the existing install base for business email has already moved to hosted Exchange. That's a huge number, and in fact it's an eye-opener for people who were skeptical about the market share that hosted Exchange can take. You know, it's just the business email. It's not personal emails. This is not individual emails. These are business class emails which are paying much more amount, and they want the premium services, and they have the utility for those services offered by unified messaging, collaboration, and communications. So this is a very latest study just released that is saying that almost 25% of the hosted business email market share has already gone to Exchange. You know, there are not many competitors. Linux guys haven't done a great job in offering a good competitor to Microsoft in terms of this office communication and enterprise communication. So Microsoft is kind of taking a solo flight in this SMB space and gaining big market share. So our eyes are obviously on the rest of the 75%. There are different market studies which are projecting growth by billions of dollars and double-digit annual growth rates on Exchange and hosted Exchange. We will not go into those details because that's not the purpose of this webinar today. But from this screenshot, you can see that it's a big unfolding market, and that's where the real premium dollars are for hosted service providers. So the first question is hosted Exchange. Who is it for? Who is the most suitable person to offer hosted Exchange? And we see that there are in fact quite a few people who traditionally were not into this one, but that doesn't exclude the traditional web host. So that's the first and foremost candidate to expand into hosted Exchange, and they are the guys who really need a change. You know, they went into web hosting and other forms of email hosting, simple hosting, but that product base was very quickly commoditized, and they are having tough competition, getting even a few dollars a month for hosting someone's website or emails, and you most of you probably know what I'm saying. So they need to go into higher value markets. And what are the options available to them? Obviously, some of them are going into virtualization, into infrastructure provisioning, but one of the most lucrative options still remains offering Microsoft suite of applications as a hosted service. So they remain the first and foremost candidate to offer hosted exchange as a service. In addition to them, there is a big service provider market around. These are the guys who have traditionally provided internet access either through cable or fiber or copper or some other forms of wire media, or there could be wireless broadband providers, the LTE providers, the 4G providers, 3G providers, 2G providers, CDMA providers. These are all the guys who have been providing different types of, or WiMAX providers, different types of broadband, wireless broadband services. They do have a huge customer base. It's typical for them to run their customer base into millions of people and offices, and they are very well positioned to leverage this opportunity and bundle it with their own internet service offerings. They have been struggling with the fact that they are the ones who really provide the pipe that the end user uses to use all these internet services, and all those services where the big dollars are, they are going what they call over the top. So they just don't get to know what valuable service the person used based on the fiber or copper or channel that they have provided to them. Hosted exchange gives them an opportunity to monetize and capitalize on the pipes that they have already laid. They can now bundle hosted exchange as an add-on service to whatever they are selling, and then upsell and cross-sell onto their millions of customer base. So that's one of the core target audience that we are targeting today, internet access service providers worldwide. The third big market that we see for hosted exchange are the telcos. The telcos have traditionally provided the telephony services and telephony services alone. Margins, as always, are shrinking for them. They are seeing their RPUs going down to a level that it's simply unsustainable. There are many market studies that are saying that just providing voice is an unsustainable business for them. So they need to differentiate, they need to innovate, they need to expand their service offering so that they have something that adds value. So what is it that they can do? BlackBerry did a great job many years ago when it unified some of the messaging facilities onto the cell phones that were traditionally used for voice only. That trend now is only increasing and increasing further. And telephony companies, traditional telcos, who are now actually diversifying into the 3G and 4G technologies, which are inherently bundling and mixing voice and data together, they are very well suited to offer hosted exchange as a hosted service to their customers. So these are the three large market segments that we see coming quickly on board the hosted exchange bandwagon. But what are the challenges that they are going to face, or anyone will face, to offer exchange and its related suite of products as a hosted service? We see that the fundamental problem is that Microsoft never designed it to run as a lightweight server that you can run on a virtual machine somewhere in the cloud, with multiple virtual machines provisioned on the same physical server. A minimum deployment will have what we can call a critical mass, in it that has to go in it before it will do anything. So it's typical for you to see a hub server, at least one or more mailbox servers, at least one or more client access servers, and if you have other enterprise applications, they all need one full server. It's almost difficult, if not impossible, to run multiple instances of these same heavy applications onto the same server in virtualized partitions. So offering it in the cloud has its challenges that we are going to address today, and that remains the main topic of our webinar today. So when we see the hosted exchange architecture, we see that it is built primarily to run as an in-house on-premises server maintained by a full-time IT staff. That's the definition. You have to have an IT staff running the whole show if you want to have Exchange running in your office. That has been the traditional vision of the people who designed it. Cloud-based offerings, the fundamental requirement is multi-tenancy. You have to offer the same infrastructure and the same platform and share it with multiple tenants on the same installation and deployment. So what we need is a segregation between different tenants who are all sharing the same server installation. Microsoft designed its suite of products to provide unification. That's exactly the other way around. Microsoft has gone to great lengths to provide unification amongst all the users who are on the same server. They are supposed to be the same organization within the same enterprise, and Microsoft has actually done exactly the reverse, that they have allowed them to elaborate, to communicate, to share things with each other, and it's very difficult to create boundaries, artificial boundaries between people to allow multi-tenancy. So multi-tenancy requires provisioning of each installation within a sandbox. A sandbox is a typical term in software to explain the concept that different people are sharing the same thing, but they are somehow separated with each other through virtual boundaries created artificially, so that one tenant can remain separate to the other sharing the same thing. Microsoft knows what they have done and what's needed by the market, so they have struggled with offering multi-tenancy into Exchange through different means during the previous few years. They originally came up with an HMC product. They called it a hosted messaging and communication, or I don't know, collaboration software. They tried with it for many years. They said this is the model for service providers who want multi-tenancy. Somehow we also struggled it a lot, and it didn't really deliver on what it said. So Microsoft rolled it back around, I don't know, 4 or 5 years back. And then Microsoft said we are going to offer another /hosting mode in the standard Microsoft Exchange. Again, the Microsoft struggled with it for many years. You know, we did offer it. Quite a few customers, in fact, started using it, but they really couldn't offer all the use cases and all the features that Exchange had to offer. And without those features, Exchange really didn't deliver the value that it was supposed to deliver. So Microsoft recently, a few months ago, announced that they are going to roll back the /hosting mode also, and now probably they have thought it right, and they have introduced policies at different layers that will be used to provide an artificial layer of multi-tenancy on top of a monolithic kind of architecture that they have come up with. So the most recent version that they have just released, in fact, last week, it uses address book policies and some other stuff that will be used to enforce and impose a multi-tenancy layer on top of the Exchange deployment. What traditionally people have been doing all through to offer Exchange is to use an automation control panel. This is the same thing that they have been doing for other traditional web hosting businesses, where they had a control panel that would allow sharing different tenants on the same installation. So the control panels have been doing this heavy lifting for all of them. They have been providing multi-tenancy, and all through those years, Microsoft has been continuously changing their technology, and control panel vendors have been handling that without affecting their customers. And they have been embracing new technologies and doing the same things in newer ways with the customer and user experience remaining the same. And we are one of the control panel vendors that actually do that. So going ahead, we want to see today what are the missing pieces that do not come out of the box when you open a Microsoft Exchange server box. If you intend to offer it as a hosted service, as we just said, that Microsoft designed it to be run in-house, on-premises, with a full-time IT staff. So they didn't really address so many concerns which arise when you're trying to offer it as a hosted service within the cloud. The very first question is about automatic provisioning. How do you provision different resources so that they are multi-tenant compatible, and they are just going in the places where they should be, and creating the sandboxes, as we just said. So within those sandboxes, create all the provisioning stuff that people want to do. The second is tenant self-serve. Microsoft never came up with a tenant self-serve portal till today. The only self-serve portal they had was launched also recently. Previously, they only had a command line interface, as so many other guys did, and that one is for whom? The super administrator. That's it, the root. So everything you do is through the super admin login, and a real multi-tenant self-serve didn't exist. So that's the second thing that you need to have. The third thing is a plan and quota manager. Why do you need a plan and quota manager? It's obviously for you, because since you are reselling the exchange services to different people, you need a plan and quota manager. Microsoft didn't create it to be sold on a per mailbox or a per mail domain level. You know, they created it as a big whole thing for enterprise. So they don't have any options available within Exchange to offer it as a hosted service with every resource controlled as per the subscriptions and the charges the people are paying and stuff like that. They don't have such layer. So such layer is again imposed by an automation control panel. Then Microsoft doesn't have a service management layer. We'll see what service management is. And then Microsoft obviously doesn't have a billing and payments option, because that's not how they designed it. And Microsoft also doesn't have a reseller support interface within the product. So let's quickly see all these 6 missing portions that we have identified. They are broad categorization of whatever else is missing, but probably we can just fit in everything into one of these 6 things which are missing. And if you have these 6 things, then you can probably offer Exchange as a hosted service. So what we are trying to pitch in today in this webinar is that what you need is an automation control panel that provides all of these missing pieces for you. This is what the traditional automation control panel has done for so many years for the hosting industry, where they shared the same Apache web server or the Microsoft web server or maybe some mail server with multiple tenants, and they created artificial boundaries of self-serve for different customers so that they can self-serve just their portion of the installation. So you have to do the same thing with Exchange and its related suite of products to go to an automation vendor that provides you the 6 missing features that we have just identified in a deployment. So what does the automation control panel do for provisioning? What it does, it works behind an order management system. You can have an order management system coming through your website where you are taking orders, or maybe you have a CRM system, or maybe your customer service representatives enter the orders manually. Whatever order management system you have, the automation control panel needs to sit behind and really execute the workflows behind those orders which are coming. So that's the first thing that the automation control panel doing is provisioning. And while it is doing provisioning, it is the same automation control panel that needs to take care of multi-tenancy, and as I said, it needs to provision all resources within the sandboxes that it has created for each individual user, so that they can share the same space and remain as tenants, who sharing the same space without bothering anyone else. The second missing portion in Microsoft deployment is a tenant self-serve. As I said, they never came up with something. They probably are doing something now, but that's still far from a real self-serve for the tenants. And that also depends, the tenant self-serve also depends on the way you have created multi-tenancy onto an Exchange box. So that's something that we'll probably take up in question and answer session, which is going to be held after this webinar. So the second portion that this automation control panel will provide to you is a tenant self-serve that will allow people to come and do whatever they want to do, and then it has to impose 2 boundaries on that. Number 1, the tenancy boundary. The control panel should not allow them to read, edit, delete, modify anything that belongs to another tenant in the same space. That's the first thing to do. And obviously the second thing to do is to allow them full freedom to do things within the quotas and the plans that they have purchased, or in other words, the subscriptions that they have purchased. Allow them whatever they need to remain within those boundaries and not cross that. So if they have purchased a subscription that allows them 10 mailboxes, it's the job of the automation control panel to enforce these quotas and let them do whatever up till 10 mailboxes and then stop them and either ask them to purchase more or just do not let them do some things. So that's another important task of the tenant self-serve that the automation control panel needs to do. The third thing automation control panel offers is a plan and quota manager, which, as I said, do not come out of the box when you open a Microsoft Exchange. So Microsoft Exchange has features, it has objects, and those objects has properties. All of them are features in the eyes of your customer. They look at the mail domains as a feature, and their mailboxes, everything else is a feature for them. It's the job of the service provider to define their plans and quotas based on those features, and we will see this in more detail, so I'll skip it in here. And then they define their plans and quotas which the customers will purchase, and then they will just use them. So on this screen we are seeing, and we'll see it even in more detail, that Exchange offers many features on top of a simple mailbox. That's the reason of its existence. So you can have IMAP access, you can have web access, you can have active sync, you can have public folders, you can have so many things, and it's the job of the plan and quota manager to allow you to monetize on each of these features, and so that you can create a differentiation of your service. You can charge people for the value that you are delivering them, and do other stuff to separate and differentiate yourself from all other people who are offering probably an all-in-one, all-you-can-eat type offering. So we will come back to this thing later. What next thing a control panel needs to provide is a service management interface. In cloud, multi-tenant hosted services, you are pretty much on your own in terms of automation, and you can't really pay individual attention to people and run behind your receivables and payments. It needs to be all automated into a workflow, an automated workflow. So when your billing system, whatever billing system you are using, says that someone's subscription charges could not be processed, he has run out of the money, as per the policies, you want to give him some grace period, you don't want to do that, those policies are dictated by the billing engine, but at one time, the billing engine needs to decide to suspend the services of a user. Now that is something which is not supported by Microsoft out of the box, and especially for a tenant within his sandbox, you need to suspend the services of just that single individual tenant who hasn't paid his bill, and the other tenants keep going. And when and if the payment is automatically processed, the services are automatically resumed without any manual intervention. That is a substantial value add that the automation control panel needs to provide to you. And if there are other use cases that if someone just doesn't pay after a lot of time, the billing system may ask you to just purge the accounts. That's another use case that the automation control panel provides. In that case, all the data and all the files he has are all purged from the system, and the resources are reclaimed so that they can be reused with other people. So these are some of the use cases that all fall under service management thing. It can get more complex in other situations, but the simple use cases are resume, suspend, and purge, and things like that the control panel needs to provide. Then it's billings and payments. Usually people, especially existing service providers and telcos, they have their own billing systems. So the control panel needs to have the means and resources to allow them to integrate with it and call APIs within their existing billing and payment systems and order management systems and execute the workflows as we saw before. But if you are not an existing service provider with an existing billing system, or you don't want to use a third-party billing system, it's the job of the control panel to provide you with basic fundamental commodity billing that you can run to create your own plans and packages and price them, and use all the add-ons and resources available to you within the Exchange domain to price your offerings, and then take the orders, sign up users on them, and make the payments, charge the payments, and do the service management automatically behind those policies. So these are the 6 missing pieces that we broadly considered missing in Microsoft Exchange that anyone would need if they are to offer Exchange as a hosted service. So having said that, and having introduced an automation control panel, let's introduce hosting controller. I believe most of you listening today are already very well aware of the product and the company. We are an automation control panel. We are primarily a Windows-based house, serving the hosting community for the last 10 years. For the last many years, we are into offering automation control panels for hosted exchange. And these are some of the products that we fully support and automate, and we do provide all the 6 things which I just mentioned as missing to offer exchange as a hosted service. So once you deploy hosting controller, the way it works is that it sits on one of your servers, and then it provides a GUI for the administrator, for the reseller, for the web admins to do their self-serve, and it's automatically doing the service management. It has a billing engine, it has full complete provisioning, and it's very well aware of how to create multi-tenancy within a monolithic exchange installation. And all through these years, we have been following whatever best practices for multi-tenancy Microsoft has been offering, and we are continuously on it. And when Microsoft changes its policy, we just provide people with a seamless upgrade onto the new policies. So having talked about the technology and what else is missing and what else is present, let's focus on the business models the service provider needs to take. And in cloud-based business models, we can see that we can broadly classify what a user or a service provider can do into a PaaS versus SaaS model, which is a platform or a service as a software as a service model. So as you can see, the typical cloud value chain goes like this, that at the very bottom you just provide the infrastructure, and infrastructure are the servers and the network and whatever else. And on top of that, you provide a platform. And what, in this context, what is a platform? The whole suite of applications, the Microsoft applications, is the platform. That platform enables anyone to launch his own service and launch that service software as a service. So we'll see what's the difference between the two. In a SaaS model or software as a service model, the service provider may choose to offer it the whole software as a service, which is primarily a B2C, a business to consumer relationship with enterprises which are using it. What's typical at this level is that you will see that the plans and the packages are in great detail. The service provider is trying to monetize each and every single feature which is going into the service. There are add-ons, there are base subscriptions, and there is value and money to be charged for different things that they do that deliver value to the customer. That's typical at this level when you're offering exchange software as a service. The other model, which is very much supported in hosting controller, is to be a PaaS only. And in the PaaS model, the service provider only offers the exchange as a platform for different people to launch their own services using the software that it has provided and the platform that it has provided. We will call them resellers. And as we will discuss at the end of this webinar, there are reasons to believe that just like the web hosting business and other hosting businesses, it's the resellers that will drive the market, and it's the resellers that will actually bring the market to the providers of their choice. And anyone who can do a good job in terms of resellers is going to be the winner. So the support of resellers is significantly important. In that case, what happens is the service provider is basically a PaaS provider. He's only providing the platform as a service to the resellers, and they are the ones who are offering the service. At this level, it's typical to see a wholesale or a B2B relationship between the service provider and the reseller. What you are selling to the reseller is not in extreme granularity and in detail of individual features as they apply to mailboxes and other stuff. You will probably sell them, a few terabytes of space, tens of mailboxes, hundreds of mailboxes, tens of domains, stuff like that in a wholesale way. And they will then pick and choose their own plans. They will create their own plans, suiting their own market needs, creating their own differentiation, and so on. So after the technology, the main business case that we wanted to discuss today is about the business model that people want to offer. And the business model can either be all-you-can-eat type business model where you are offering exchange, everything inclusive. Microsoft is offering its own Office 365 in a similar way, where they have plans starting at $6 per user per month, going to $27, but not much differentiation based on individual features and add-ons. What facilities and what empowerment does the control panel provide to the service providers to be able to monetize individual features is a significant value add. Hosting controller offers a bunch of features. It allows you to monetize individual access to IMAP protocol, POP protocol, MAPI, web access to HTTP, active sync, individual distribution list, individual public folder list, mailboxes, and domains. So these are all the features that can be used to monetize, to personalize, to differentiate, to innovate, to create new offerings suiting the market needs of the people. So you can charge people something extra for if they want MAPI access or IMAP access or web access, or you can limit quotas, or you can limit based on distribution lists or public folders and stuff like that. Any combination thereof is allowed both at the B2B level between the host and the reseller, and the B2C level between the reseller and the enterprise or the host admin. So that's the long and short of our presentation today. We are almost 6 minutes over our 30 minutes time. A quick overview of what Hosting Controller is. We were established in 1999. We launched our first Windows-based product somewhere in 2001. More than 5,000 hosting companies using the product today. Mainly they are Windows-based hosting providers. We do provide some Linux, but Windows remains our specialty. And we are based in Richmond, BC, Canada. And Hosted Exchange is something that we provide to people for the last many years. So if you want to contact us, here are our contact numbers. And if you have any questions, I will give you a few minutes to post your question, and then we will take 5 to 10 minutes taking your questions and answering them. Okay, the first question is, how will environments that were configured prior to SP1 be brought in compliance with Microsoft's support guidelines? Okay, so this happens to be the first question, which is right. I think you wanted to refer to SP2 in here. Microsoft with SP2 has changed its multi-tenancy guidelines. Previously, what we were doing, we were extensively using ACLs, access control lists, to impose a multi-tenancy layer on top of Exchange. Now we have announced that we will be supporting SP2 and the new guidelines Microsoft has come up with within the first quarter of 2012. We are targeting at February, but it could be March, that we release the version that's compatible with Microsoft guidelines. But the point to be noted here is that Microsoft has gone through a series of 8 or 10 different ways of providing multi-tenancy, and Hosting Controller has been supporting all through. And the way we do it is that once a user migrates from a previous version to a new version, we do all the heavy lifting on the back end to implement policies as per the new guidelines of Microsoft. And in all cases, as it has happened in the past, the user experience didn't change. So in this case, when we do that, what we will have to do is to impose policies based on Microsoft guidelines, which are broadly around the address book policies. And then we'll have to remove all the ACLs from whatever places we have imposed them. And everything will be done automatically on the back end, and user experience will not change. There should be no downtime while we do that. It should be an automated process where the previous version of Microsoft Exchange is upgraded to the new version. It will be done in conjunction with you deploying the SP2. So while you deploy SP2, you will run the Hosting Controller upgrade module that will upgrade all the previous installations. It will remove ACLs and whatever else we used to do to impose multi-tenancy, and it will bring everything in line with Microsoft guidelines. So stay tuned for our next version that will announce support for SP2. Okay, the next question says, what about licensing the Exchange software itself? What sort of special licensing is required? Assume it would be SPLA. Yeah, that's correct. You know, SPLA is all what you need to have. It's one of the good ways of starting rather than paying for the licensing up front. You know, Microsoft actually requires all service providers to take the service provider license. You can start an SPLA arrangement with Microsoft without any upfront money. The way they have done it is they have appointed 6 resellers, and they want you to have an account with one of those resellers. And those resellers are just these big companies like Dell, HP, Ingram Micro, and 3 more. So you probably have to have an account with them, and you need to do an SPLA reporting. The real problem one problem that comes that we did not address in today's webinar is actually in licensing, that you need to report to Microsoft or the reseller with whom you have an account the usage of your customers that was done till last month. That becomes tricky, and Hosting Controller offers you some SPLA reports that can be automatically generated, and those reports can then be used to actually report the usage that you are doing on the licensing. And then the reports are pretty detailed, and it also allows you to import them into Excel and do some of your own stuff offline to actually relate your costs with your revenues, because it reports each and every single mailbox that's being used and by whom, and what other features that you are using for whom you have to pay to Microsoft. So yes, you're right that you need to have an SPLA agreement with Microsoft and to get all the licenses on the fly. Okay, the question is, next question, so far you have said what HC does, which we already know. I thought the point of this webinar was a demo of how HC does it, etc. Well, it's a good question. I think the purpose of this webinar was actually to tell service providers and other people, other hosts who are not into hosted exchange business to actually know what it takes for them to be able to do that. How you do that, how we do that is something that we do every day because customers keep coming in, and the first thing they ask for is a demo, and we do provide personalized one-to-one attended demos free of cost. At least to our exchange customers, because they are relatively higher value customers for us compared to the shared hosting customers who are typically paying a lot less fees in terms of licensing. So just contact us on the information on your screen already, and we will be glad to arrange a demo for you. What are the price points? It's the next question. Well, so far our pricing is based on the roles that you assume. So you have to have one hub and then at least a mailbox server and a cache server. So the more server roles you have, the more licensing you have to pay to us. And it's kind of a server license. We do not so far have any segregation on the basis of number of domains or number of actual mailboxes that you provision. But we have pressure from our customers to change this server model, or at least offer another subscriber-based model that allows them to better align their revenues with their costs, more in line of a pay-as-they-grow model. So maybe in the next coming build, which is expected, as I said, in February to March, we may change the licensing basis, or we may have both the licensing basis as Microsoft does, a server-based license and a subscriber-based license. So we will keep you posted on what's happening within the company. Okay, now the next question is hello, thank you for doing this webinar. If we have a server with 24 cores, would be able to provide MS Exchange hosting on one server using virtual layers? The more important things than the core is the RAM, and I'm assuming if you have 24 cores, then you'll probably have a lot of RAM as well. Typically, it's desirable that you have anywhere between 4 to 8 GB of RAM for each server role that you have, and you have to have 1 to 4 cores dedicated to that role. That's the minimum, and if you are looking at the minimum of 3 roles, so it's in theory it's possible for you to be able to do that, but we have realized that it's better to use cheap, common, off-the-shelf servers and different servers for different roles, rather than trying to virtualize all of these different roles into a single offering. And once you do that, you either have to go through Microsoft's Hyper-V or some other virtualization tool, and I think so many things are not really tested in Exchange because having a stable Exchange installation has always been a challenge. So people are claiming that they are running in virtualized partitions. I personally would suggest you not to do that and just run it on barebone 2008 servers. Although in theory, or in what Microsoft claims, there is nothing stopping you from doing that. And yes, the potency that you have mentioned for the server should be enough for you to run basic 3 roles that you need. Okay, it says off the topic, do you have plans to start supporting Link? I believe it's not off the topic, it's very much on the topic. Yes, Link is, we have so far supporting only Office Communication Server. Link is on top of the agenda. and it will be available in the next build, which is expected, as I said, somewhere in February or maximum in March next year. Okay, next question says, what about support costs? Support costs are mentioned on the website. We do have a support and upgrade agreement, an annual agreement that you pay that entitles you to get free upgrades for 1 year, and it entitles you to basic support. And if you want even more higher support, then you can probably purchase it from us, and you can see all those details on the website. Okay, next question says, from a spec perspective, Microsoft was saying i7 servers to host 1,000 mailboxes, and they were quoting fairly meaty boxes. Do you have sizing guidelines and white papers to show how best to do this? Yeah. Sizing guidelines, Microsoft has it on their own website actually, and they have kind of declined any specifics on the sizing guidelines, saying that it depends. And it actually depends, if you happen to have a mailbox user who is using or rather abusing the system, dimensioning guidelines change. So they cannot really be in terms of mailboxes that are hosted. You get a single spammer on your system and he can really consume the whole thing. There are other stuff. What is more important and what we want to do is very quickly is actually to provide you with architecture guidelines, because it's more important to architect the Exchange deployment correctly, so that it's scalable on demand. So when and if you grow out of your resources, it's easier for you to add new gear and new hardware as when and where needed. So you may just add one mailbox, or keep on adding mailboxes as you need, and keep on adding client access servers as you need, and keep on adding or backing up the hub servers as you need. And then Microsoft is also announcing new things like an edge controller that you can put on the border between the rest of the internet and your core, which does a lot of policy enforcement on the edge. So you can have policies like different transport policies that you can enforce there about the size of the mailbox and about different things that will protect your core more than you want from whatever is coming from the rest of the internet. So this edge transport controller is an important role that you may have. It's kind of a session border controller for voice people that they have come up, and they are providing some other stuff that needs to be correctly architectured. So what I would say is to go with a good and nice scalable architecture in place, and then you can pay as you grow when needed. We will probably refer you to some collateral which is available on Microsoft website regarding the dimensioning and capacity issues of Exchange. So okay, it says, will installing SP2 break HC panel? Yeah, this is something we do not have an official answer on, because SP2 has just been released. We will probably be announcing it on our website very soon after we have tested SP2. In theory, usually things do not break when you apply new SP2s, new service packs, but it's always good to be cautious and wait until we confirm you that nothing breaks if you install SP2 now. Okay, it says, will you be doing a webinar on your HC virtualization module anytime soon? I think the previous webinar was good enough, and we will be sending you the link to its video, which we have, if it's not on the website, and you can just look at it, and it has all the information that you need. Okay, it says, do you need beta testers for Link? Yes, sure we do. We need as many beta testers for everything new that's happening. So just register in here, and we will be glad to put you on our beta testing list for Link. Okay. The next question says, I said we are using HC with Exchange module. Unfortunately, HC does not support shared domain model. It means, for example, that our big customer cannot have 100 Linux-based mailboxes and 30 Exchange mailboxes. Why is it no problem in Office 365 administration? Yeah, this is something which is a missing feature. I am not sure what is our policy on this one. But we know that we have done some major structural changes to allow people to mix and match different things which previously they could not do. So we will have a specialized answer going to you in on this thing. As of now, you can see that this is something that we do not support. We only support keeping all mailboxes on Exchange, if you will. Okay, next question says that we are a service provider, and do you support bypassing your plan manager if we are doing all the stuff ourselves? Okay. Yeah, this is a typical case where a service provider has their own customers and they don't want to use our plan and quota enforcement. They just want us to do the provisioning. I believe, yes, if you want to do that, there are ways that you can just bypass the whole plan manager and use hosting controller only as a provisioning tool for you to provision behind all the workflows that you have in your own environment. Okay, so I think we have run out of time in here. It's already, I'll see if so we'll probably getting some more questions now. I think we'll just answer all of those questions over email, and I just need to take one last question. Okay, and the one last question is, so an existing deployment with segregated AL that is not supported will be brought into compliance with Microsoft guidelines. Correct, current configuration is not supported. Yes, you are right, the current configuration does not support the latest Microsoft guidelines as mentioned in the Service Pack 2. But as I said, the service, our current deployment model using the ACLs works for all existing installations, and when we launch the Service Pack 2 compliance, all our existing customers will have a seamless migration as it has always happened in the past, and that's what we will officially announce with approximate dates for doing that. So I think that we have answered most of your questions, and if you have any more questions, you can send us an email and we will be glad to answer you on that. If you want any demonstration of the product, please feel free to contact us on the list below, and then we will just answer all of your questions. So thank you, gentlemen, for attending this show today, and you will have a recording of this session available in a reasonable time. So if any one of you have missed it, you can just come back and attend this show again. Thank you, and bye-bye.